This video may seem a little out of place compared to my other videos, but based on the topics I want to discuss in the future, I think it's prudent that we get this out of the way early on. I want to talk about evil, and no, not the mass shooter variety, which is very definitely evil, but the mass shooter variant seems to branch from a different set of motivations. People like the Columbine shooters will tell you in their writings pretty clearly that they loathe being. They detest it, and they want to enact revenge upon it, along with those that enjoy it. And then, to prove the point of how meaningless it all is, they kill themselves as well. But the variety of evil I want to talk about is far more dangerous, at least in my estimation, and I will explain that more thoroughly in the video, but first I want to explain why I want to do this. People seem to have this desire to explain away evil by saying the purveyors of these evil acts were just insane. That they had a screw loose, that there was something wrong with their mental processing, that they're a maniac. And in almost every instance of evil that I've encountered and researched, these claims cannot be further from the truth. And I think a lot of people are living in a fairy tale land where all the people that have stable minds are good people, and it's just the crazies that are evil. I have a very explicit example of why this line of thinking is purely fiction, at least in most scenarios. And it's going to get dark really fast, so fair warning. There won't be any graphic images used, but I imagine that won't really make it any better. It's going to be a hard topic to discuss, and the subject material in question is going to be hard to hear. Anyway, let's begin. The example we're going to use is evidence from the case of David Parker Ray, who has also been dubbed the Toy Box Killer. Now, as far as Ray's crimes go, he was only convicted of kidnap and torture, which is a fair bit lighter of a conviction than you would predict from someone dubbed the Toy Box Killer. But what he was convicted of in his court hearing aren't the really important bits to learn from this. At least not for the point I'm making. The thing that makes Ray's case stand out is the transcription of an audio recording that was released. You can find it on the internet, and I'll post a link to a pastebin that I'm using of it in the description. The audio recording is such a compelling piece of evidence to support the points I'm trying to make in this video that I think it's the only thing I'll need to use. I know that's not exactly good form in the field of research, but I'll let this stand as more of a personality study rather than a steadfast interpretation of all evil in the world. Now, I can read you the Wikipedia paragraph that briefly outlines his crimes and what he did to his victims, but what's interesting about Ray is that I don't need to. But instead of me telling you why that's the case, let me just show you. This is taken from the transcript of the audio tape. Tape transcription, side 1. Hello there, bitch. Are you comfortable right now? I doubt it. Wrists and ankles chained, gagged, probably blindfolded. You're disoriented and scared, too. I would imagine. Perfectly normal under the circumstances. For a little while, at least, you need to get your shit together and listen to this tape. It is very relevant to your situation. I'm going to tell you in detail why you've been kidnapped and what's going to happen to you and how long you'll be here. I don't know the details of your capture because this tape is being created July 23rd, 1993 as a general advisory tape for future female captives. The information I'm going to give you is based on my experience dealing with captives over a period of several years. If, at a future date, there are any major changes in our procedures, the tape will be upgraded. Now, you are obviously here against your will. Totally helpless. Don't know where you're at. Don't know what's going to happen to you. You're very scared or very pissed off. I'm sure that you've already tried to get your wrists and ankles loose. And no, you can't. Now, you're just waiting to see what's going to happen next. You're probably thinking you're going to be raped, and you're fucking sure right about that. Our primary interest is in what you've got between your legs. You'll be raped thoroughly and repeatedly in every hole you've got. Because basically, you've been snatched and brought here for us to train and use as a sex slave. Sound kind of far out? Well, I suppose it is to the uninitiated, but we do it all the time. It's going to take a lot of adjustment on your part, and you're not going to like it a fucking bit. But I don't give a big rat's ass about that. It's not like you're going to have any choice about the matter. You've been taken by force, and you're going to be kept and used by force. What all this amounts to is that you're going to be kept naked and chained up like an animal. To be used and abused any time we want to. Any way we want to. You might as well start getting used to it, because you're going to be kept here and used until such a time as we get tired of fucking around with you. And we will, eventually, in a month or 2, maybe 3. It's no big deal. My lady friend and I have been keeping sex slaves for years. We both have kinky hang-ups involving rape, dungeon games, etc. We've found that it is extremely convenient to keep one or two female captives available constantly to satisfy our particular needs. Right away, you can feel a very unsettling amount of pragmatism. He's rationalizing and justifying why it's easier for him to just make a recording that preps his victims instead of him having to do it every time. This should be the first red flag. Insane people are not pragmatic. Insane people don't plan for the future like this. This is not the decision of an insane person. His decision to create a tape for the purposes he states is not the act of a psychotic individual with a detachment from reality. Also, I don't know if any of you detect what I do, but to me it definitely feels like he's enjoying himself when he records this. Both enjoying the power trip he got from recording it and the ego stroking of recanting how much experience he had with it. He goes on to talk about the types of girls he targets, but we're going to skip that, and we'll pick up here. We very seldom come back empty-handed, because there's plenty of bitches out there to choose from, and with a little practice in deception, most of them is very easy to get, with little risk. At this point, it makes little difference what category you fall into. You're here, and we're going to make the most of it. You're going to be kept in a hidden slave room. It's relatively soundproof, escape-proof, and it's completely stocked with devices and equipment to satisfy our sexual fetishes and deviations. There may or may not be another girl in the room. Occasionally, for variety, we like to keep two slaves at the same time. In either case, as the new girl, you'll definitely be getting the most attention for a while. Now, as I said earlier, you're going to be kept like an animal. I guess I've been doing this too long. I've been raping bitches ever since I was old enough to jerk off and tie little girls' hands behind their back. As far as I'm concerned, you're a pretty piece of meat to be used and exploited. I don't give a flying fuck about your mind or how you feel about this situation. You may be married, have a kid or two, boyfriend, girlfriend, a job, car payment, fuck it. I don't give a rat's ass about any of that, and I don't want to hear about it. It's something you're going to have to deal with after you're turned loose. I make it a point to never like a slave, and I fucking sure don't have any respect for you. Here, your status is no more than that of one of the dogs, or of one of the animals out in the barn. Your only value to us is the fact that you have an attractive, usable body. And, like the rest of our animals, you will be fed and watered, kept in good physical condition, kept reasonably clean, and allowed to use the toilet when necessary. In return, you're going to be used hard, especially during your first few days while you're new and fresh. You're going to be kept chained in a variety of positions, usually with your legs or knees forced wide apart. This is where the chilling honesty of the tape really starts to bother you as you read it. The strangest part that I have found is that because of this, it wasn't until the second reading of this transcript that I realized I trusted what he was saying, and maybe I shouldn't be doing that. I guess when you hear a confession of such pure malice, you forget that there is a possibility that he could just be lying about it, about the degree of it, about the specifics. We don't know how much he's lying about, but you don't really think of that when you hear it the first time. I guess the shock just kind of eclipses it. It's something that really bothered me when I realized it. I believed him. I mean, he probably isn't lying, but it's very unsettling to know that I just took everything he said in this tape as true when I read it the first time, despite the very real possibility that some of it is deception, and the way he glosses over his use of deception is really something to consider. Deception is the same to him as the restraints he uses on his victims. They're just tools. Again, these are not the words of an insane person. He is very, very aware of the reality of what he is doing, and very, very aware of his methods of accomplishing it. He even makes it very clear the psychological damage he's doing to them. He says he doesn't want to hear about their families and their lives outside of it. He knows. This is not insanity. This man is rational. He's methodical, and most importantly, he's mentally stable. And that's kind of a scary thing to grasp. That everything he does has been rationalized thoroughly. There's reason behind it. I mean, it's pure evil, but it's not arbitrary. It's not insanity like some people claim. I've probably drilled home the idea that evil isn't insanity at this point, but let's keep going. If you're a young teeny bopper and ignorant about fetishes and deviations, you're about to get an enlightening crash course in sex. Who knows, you may like some of it. It happens occasionally. If we want to take the time and trouble, even under these conditions, most bitches can be brought to orgasm. Now, I've already told you they're going to be here a month or two, or maybe 3 if you keep us turned on. If it's up to my lady, we'd keep you indefinitely. She says it's just as much fun and less risky, but personally I like variety. A fresh pussy now and then to play with. We take 4 or 5 different girls each year, depending on our urges, and sometimes accidental encounters. Basically, I guess we are like predators. We're always looking. Occasionally, some sweet little thing will be broken down on the side of the road, walking, bicycling, jogging. Anytime an opportunity like that presents itself and it's not too risky, we'll grab her, even if we've already got a captive in the playroom. Variety is definitely the spice of life. Now, I'm sure that you're a great little piece of ass and you're going to be a lot of fun to play with, but I will get tired of you eventually. If I killed every bitch that we kidnapped, there'd be bodies strung all over the country. And besides, I don't like killing a girl, unless it's absolutely necessary. So I devised a safe, alternate method of disposal. I had plenty of bitches to practice on over the years. So I've pretty well got it down pat, and I enjoyed doing it. I get off on mind games. After we get completely through with you, you're going to be drugged up real heavy with a combination of sodium pentothal and phenobarbital. They're both hypnotic drugs that will make you extremely susceptible to hypnosis, auto-hypnosis, and hypnotic suggestion. You're going to be kept drugged for a couple of days while I play with your mind. By the time I get through brainwashing you, you're not going to remember a fucking thing about this little adventure. You won't remember this place, us, or what has happened to you. There won't be any DNA evidence because you'll be bathed and both holes between your legs will be thoroughly fleshed out. You'll be dressed, sedated, and turned loose on some country road, bruised, sore all over, but nothing that won't heal up in a week or two. The thought of being brainwashed might not be appealing to you now, but we've been doing it a long time and it works. And it's the lesser of two evils. I'm sure that you would prefer that, in lieu of being strangled or having your throat cut. This part in particular, I remember thinking, well, at least he isn't killing his victims, but then I realized, what if he's just lying? Why wouldn't he lie? As far as I can tell, the only thing compelling him to be truthful here is the enjoyment he seems to derive from telling his victims exactly what he's going to do. He seems to really like that power trip, but the fact that he says directly that he gets off on mind games makes it hard to know what's the truth and what isn't. Okay, undoubtedly somebody's going to be looking for you. There may or may not be a missing persons report, but nobody's going to be looking for you here. They don't have any idea where you're at. You don't even know where you're at. We're always very careful about that. There are not going to be any knights in shining armor coming to rescue you. You are strictly on your own, and, under the circumstances, I bet that's a scary thought. If there's another girl in the room, she won't be able to help you either, because she's going to be in the same position you're in. As for escaping, I'm sure you'll try to figure out a way, and that's human nature. But it's not hardly even worth talking about here. It would not be prudent on our part to have you running around in the woods screaming rape. It would be an embarrassment, to say the least. Consequently, you're going to be kept in an environment that is even more secure than a prison cell. If it has not already been done, very shortly a steel collar is going to be padlocked around your neck. It has a long, heavy chain that is padlocked to a ring in the floor. The collar will never be removed until you are turned loose. It's a permanent fixture. The hidden playroom, where you're going to be kept, has steel walls, floor, and ceiling. It is virtually soundproof and has a steel door with 2 keyed locks. The hinges are welded on, and there are 2 heavy deadbolts on the outside. The room is totally escape-proof, even with tools. Any time that you are left unattended in the room, your wrists will be chained, and there are electronic sensors to let us know if you move around too much. And if that's not enough, there's a closed-circuit TV system with a surveillance camera. It's wired to the main TV in the living room, so we can check you once in a while. Or just sit and watch you for the fun of it. Electronics is a wonderful thing. Expensive, but hell, everything in the room is expensive. And damn well worth it. If everybody knew how much fun it was to keep a sex slave, half the women would be chained up in somebody's basement. Anyway, we've had a lot of practice at this, and we're not real concerned about you escaping. You're fucking sure not gonna go anywhere. Now, if you're not already naked, you soon will be. Your clothing will be bagged up and saved until such a time as we decide to turn you loose. As far as being naked goes, you might as well get used to it. For what you're going to be used for, clothing would just be in the way. Besides, I like watching a naked woman's body, all of it, whether it be in a room or on the TV set. As I've already said, you'll be fed and watered on a regular basis. Not as much of either as you're used to, I'm sure, but enough to keep you healthy. You'll only be fed once a day, like the rest of the animals. And during the first few days, until you adjust to it and your stomach shrinks up, you're going to feel a little weak and you'll be hungry all the time. It won't take long, 3 or 4 days during the first few days, until you adjust to the environment, I prefer to keep you in a weakened condition anyway. Now, you already know that you've been kidnapped and brought here for us to train and use as a sex slave. I realize that being abducted and being forced into sexual slavery is a hard pill to swallow. Some girls really have a lot of trouble with it, and I'm sure that you will, to a certain extent. But face it, you can't get away. You can't say no. You're going to be naked all the time. You won't be able to struggle or resist. You're going to have to lay there and take it, good or bad, no matter what is being done to you. A scary thought. Yeah, but there are no options. Nothing you can say or do will change the fact that it's going to happen. Many girls beg and plead. Almost all of them cry a lot, especially during the first 3 or 4 days. And some of them scream and threaten, but I have a poster on the wall in the playroom that says it all. If they're worth taking, they're worth keeping. And I'm going to tell you, just so you know, since you are being kept here against your will, we will never trust anything you say, do, or promise. You are a potential threat to us, and you always will be treated as such. On numerous occasions, bitches have told me that they'd do anything I wanted them to do if I'd just take the chains off. I've been offered ransom money. I've even had girls tell me they liked it. But I like to use the chains. Money's not that important, and masochists are rare as hell. Have I driven home this idea that he isn't insane yet? Psychopathic, absolutely. But he knows exactly what he's doing. His actions are deliberate and based on achieving his desired outcome. There is no insanity at play here. Only rationalism and pure satiatory desire. And I'm not trying to compliment this bastard. I'm demonstrating that what so many people view as insane acts are not derived from mental instability. They are conscious choices. He knows the consequences and he doesn't care. He knows exactly how much harm he is doing. He doesn't care. Hell, he even enjoys it. I wonder what your scam's gonna be. Not anything I haven't heard before, I bet, if you get a chance to talk at all. Well, let's change the subject a little bit. You already know that for the most part you're going to be kept in the playroom. But once in a while we like to take a captive into the bedroom. In chains, of course. Also, we have a couple of real close friends that we party with once in a while. They know about our hang-ups and don't have any problem with fucking a slave. You may be required to service them occasionally, but that's an easy one for the most part, just fucking and sucking. They don't get into the heavier stuff. However, when we have a party, sometimes I like to put on a little show that you won't like at all. You'll be taken into the living room and put on the floor on your hands and knees naked. Your wrists, ankles, knees, and hips will be strapped to a metal frame to hold your body in that position. The frame is designed for doggy fucking. Your ass up in the air, sex organs exposed, your tits hanging down on each side of a metal support bar. Knees spread about 12 inches, position similar to that of a bitch dog in heat. Right in the middle of the floor so we can sit on the couch and in chairs and watch. I'm going to rub canine breeder's musk on your back, the back of your neck, and on your sex organs. Now I have 3 dogs, all of them's male, because I don't need any fucking pups. But one of them is a very large German shepherd that is always horny. He loves it when I bring him into the house to fuck a woman. After I let him in the house, he'll sniff around you a little bit, and within a minute he'll be mounting you. So, it gets a lot more graphic in the description of this, but we're going to skip it. It's just a little too much. But what's really unsettling is the participants of this particular party. He has friends that participate in these events, which will hopefully open the door for some of you to understand just how large these underground rings of evil can extend. The random solo operating pedophile that snatches kids is very rare. Rings are far more common. And if they're not organized rings, they at least have other people that they're working with that know what they're doing, that are complicit. Rings are far more common, and again, the reason rings are more common is that they provide easier access to their vices of choice, and also provide security. Something insane people would not consider. Supporting the idea that they are very, very rationally and intentionally doing what they are doing. Now, if you think all this stuff is sick and depraved, you haven't seen anything yet. This is a different world. Among our small circle of friends, little things like rape, kidnapping, doggy fucking, stuff like that are everyday occurrences. Matter, of course, here, anything can happen and often does. We like living in the mountains because it's quiet, secluded, private, and everybody minds their own business. The only close house belongs to our friends, and they don't hear or see anything. Okay, let's talk about your training. the rules and punishment. Here, you are a slave, and discipline is extremely strict. You're going to be given a set of rules, things you can and cannot do, and you will learn to comply because each time you violate a rule, you will be punished. As soon as each rule is told to you, it will become law as far as you're concerned. And you know what's going to happen every time you fuck up. We'll use a couple methods of punishment. A whip is an excellent training aid, so is an electroshock machine. Anytime you get out of line, one or both will be used on your body, and I assure you it will not be pleasant. I think that section is pretty self-evident. He goes on to describe in great detail the manner in which his victim is expected to act. He lays out each one of his rules for his victims, and continues to be very explicit in what exactly he's going to do to them and why. But eventually he ends with this. Eventually things will settle down a little, then just take it day by day. Well, I believe I've told you about everything that I can. I cannot predict the future. I can't predict changes of procedure, but if this tape is being played for you, I have to assume that it is still reasonably accurate. And I can only give you advice. Be smart and be a survivor. Don't ever scream. Don't talk without permission. Be very quiet. Be docile and obedient, and by all means show proper respect. Have a nice day. End of tape. Now, the reason I think this type of evil is more dangerous than that of the mass shooters is because its intent is not to seek revenge on the world. The intent of these people is very clear. They want to do exactly what they want, at all times, no matter the cost to others, for as long as they can get away with it. They will organize with others that share their perversions, and they will exist uncontested for years. They are shockingly pragmatic, making decisions that serve their purpose of sustaining their evil acts, and they are rationalizing and know exactly what they are doing. There is no misunderstanding of reality present here. They know exactly what they're doing. Anyway, I hope I've dispelled the foolish idea that evil is driven by insanity or a misunderstanding of the world or reality. I hope I've demonstrated exactly how rational and deliberate these individuals can be. I truly believe this is knowledge worth having because I wouldn't subject you to it otherwise. Thank you for watching and try to enjoy the rest of your day.